Hey, huge movie fanatic Nate coming at you on a kind of gloomy, I think it's like 45 degrees, April, I'll take it over 5 degrees. Late April day, coming at you to review Quentin Tarantino's eighth opus, eighth epic, quote unquote, masterpiece in quotes by the name of The Hateful Eight. So back when I heard tell that the next Tarantino movie was going to be another Western right after a Western he did, I was kind of like, oh, because with Django Unchained, he did nearly 3 hours of a Western with Django Unchained, and then he's just going to go off, continue off of that and just do another Western. I thought was kind of lame. Incidentally, it's hard for me, the first time I saw it, I watched it all the way through, and I've never watched it all the way through in one sitting again. Like the second time I watched it, I had to do it in 2 or 3 parts, and same with the third time, it was like 3 parts. And that's one of my problems, of course, with the movie, is very much like very much with like the last part or the last third of Django Unchained, where I feel like that movie completely is like 30 minutes minimum too long. The exact same can be said, in my opinion, for Hateful Eight. I feel like it's minimum 30 minutes too long, maybe more like 40 or 45 minutes too long. I guess since I'm just leaning towards this, the problems with it, I might as well just continue the problems with it. If you just cut out the whole like backstory of how the whatever gang came upon the haberdashery and killed Minnie and everyone there and took it over for themselves, and to wait for Kurt Russell's character to appear with Jennifer Jason Leigh, I thought was just like complete unnecessary. Me and Matt have reviewed not Inglourious Basterds, but Django Unchained, and I said in that review that that movie felt very, or at least that last third of it felt very, I can't remember the exact term I used, but Tarantino as a film fan himself, filmmaker slash film fan, and maybe indulgent is the word I use. He's just like creates this world, and he's just like such a fan and such a geek, movie geek and a fan, that it's like he just makes it last forever, and maybe in my opinion, maybe a little longer than it should. Like I said, I mean, that whole bit of showing the bad guys, commandeer the haberdashery was, in my opinion, really just not really even necessary, and the movie could have been 30 minutes, shorter, and just not had that. I think that, although in Tarantino fashion, although it's cool to go back and, see something, I don't know. It's cool, but at the same time, it's not so cool. So long story short, it's very cool to see Kurt Russell back, being a child of the 80s and having grown up with Kurt Russell. It's very cool. He's awesome in Death Proof. I got to review that movie at some point. It's very cool. I was very excited when I heard that Kurt Russell was going to be in it. Of course, I don't know. I kind of feel like Samuel L. Jackson and Quentin Tarantino are kind of, at this point, wearing a little thin. But, again, this is just my opinion. If you think he should be in every single Tarantino movie, that's, more power to you. But at this point, especially having, been in, not a big part, but whatever, in the last movie he did, which was also the last Western he did, I just felt like, obviously Tarantino and Samuel L. Jackson go together well, so whatever. That's just my opinion. I kind of feel like, I don't know, whatever. And another thing I wasn't too keen on, obviously having the last Tarantino movie been about, this whole race bullshit, is, this movie isn't so much, where Django Unchained is just completely about, that's the whole premise of the movie, and the slave nonsense and bullshit and slave crap, and that movie's basically just about race and white versus black and all this bullshit. This movie isn't about that. It's just about this tale of these strangers just meeting in a haberdashery and realizing it's almost like Wild West meets Clue. It's like who done it, and whatever, and you see the story slowly, very slowly I should say, slowly unfold. Obviously it's a Quentin Tarantino movie, so you can't, get through the movie without the N-word which I'm not going to say because it said way too much in this movie for the whole rest of humanity. You can't, watch a Tarantino movie without that word being said probably minimum of 100 times, in a 160-minute movie. I'm getting really sick of the kind of race card, being perpetuated in movies, and it's just kind of like, you know what, let's just leave, But it's really not, it's media and all that shit that is really the creators of the race, the whole race war, the race problems. If you didn't have media, I don't think we'd really have any race problems. But that's just my opinion. I think this movie is a perfect example, as is Django Unchained, of the media's perpetuating this goddamn, whatever hostility between races. And what's ironic about this one is they even throw a Mexican in there. They got white versus black, black versus white, black versus Mexican, and it's just kind of like, Jesus H, Christmas. So that's something that I really, really, really didn't like about this movie, as well as just seeing that, especially having just come from a movie having just done a movie where that was the whole premise of the movie. It's just like, yeah, that had to find its way in here too, didn't it? And it's just like, well, give me a break. So Kurt Russell, plays this. We'll just say, okay, let's just stop bitching and get, head towards the closure here and say the good things. Well, Kurt Russell's fantastic in this movie. Jennifer Jason Leigh, not having been in at any rate, probably not having been in a movie in the theater. She was supposed to have been, I can't remember what the hell. I remember I reviewed that Amityville trailer with Jennifer Jason Leigh in it. I don't know if that movie ever came out. It was an Amityville movie, and Jennifer Jason Leigh was in it, and I remember saying, "Oh, she's back, cool." And I don't know if that ever came out or not. But at any rate, this movie did come out, and was kind of like a, slam bang return of a familiar face again, having grown up in the 80s and 90s and stuff, and had grown up in the 80s, continued to have grown up in the 90s and stuff, continued to mature in the 90s and stuff. Jennifer Jason Leigh, of course, is a face and a name that I'm familiar with. And she was, Kurt Russell and her, Samuel L. Jackson is good, but I just kind of like getting over, it's kind of like with Morgan Freeman for me. It's kind of like it's kind of like just Samuel L. Jackson overload, like, yeah, just whatever, that's it, just Samuel L. Jackson overload, I guess is what it boils down to. But the strengths of this movie is, Kurt Russell, he's fantastic. I love his look with his mustache and beard thing. Jennifer Jason Leigh, you could say in a way almost steals the show. Especially towards the end of the movie where she's, spouting this, truth or non-truth about the 15 other members of the gang, waiting to, come in whatever, if whatever doesn't happen and stuff. So, Jennifer Jason Leigh is definitely a strong point of this movie. Unfortunately, she spends much of the majority of the movie just in the background, and it's only the last, last act or last whatever part of the movie where she really kind of shines with the front teeth broken and the blood on her face, and she's just got this look of like, ugh, something out of The Exorcist or something. So I just feel like, very much the word I said with Django Unchained is just, well, shit, I said it in this review and I forgot it. Oh, indulgent. I just feel like, and of course it's his right, it's his movie, I just feel like this movie's overly indulgent and just gets way too much into microcosms of everyone and everyone's origin, and like I say, you cut the part out with the gang members arriving at the haberdashery and killing everyone. It's just completely not needed, And I also thought it'd almost be interesting if you would have done the movie linear, where that, if you were going to have that in the movie, every time I watch it, or the second and third time I watch it, I kind of watch it like, what if you'd done done it linear, where you start the movie with them arriving there, shooting everything out, and then there'd just be knowing that that character is down in the, whatever it's called, the cellar for the whole movie, there'd be this Hitchcockian, just like, you'd almost just wear a hole in your stomach the whole movie, wondering when that guy's gonna strike. So I thought about that, and it's just like, wow, this movie might almost have been better done linearly, where the gang is first shown at the beginning of the movie coming to it and shooting it up, and then showing Kurt Russell and stuff. A person can very easily just do their own cut of it that way, where you just re-edit it and put that scene at the beginning of the movie where it goes, and that would make the whole time everyone's in there just so tense, and like knowing that the guns are planted and the guys in the cellar is just like, holy shit, it'd just be really, really terrifying and, nerve-wracking as to the anticipation as to what's going to happen and when and how. So I almost feel like if that would have been a better way to do it. But whatever. Obviously, in closing, I will say that the big whoop-de-doo about this movie, that it was actually, they dusted off, 50-year-old, super Panavision lenses, last used in the mid-60s or something like that, to shoot this movie in glorious, 65 blown up to 70 millimeter. And I kind of felt like it's ironic because very much with Far and Away, when that came out like in early 92 or whatever, that was hailed as I had no interest in it, but I remember seeing, it was the same thing where it was like, super 70 millimeter. And what's ironic, having seen that in years past, having got it for $3 on DVD at Half Price Books, it's like the majority of that movie's indoors, and it's like, why? It's the same thing with this movie. It's like glorious 70 millimeter, and 90% of it is indoors, and it's kind of like, why do we need to shoot a movie in 70 millimeter if only 10% of it's going to be outdoors with glorious, huge vistas? Obviously, if you have huge resolution, you don't really need huge resolution for indoor, in my opinion, for a movie shot indoors. And also the fact that I think Panavision is wide enough, and then this is even wider, and when you watch it on your 16:9 TV, it's just like the black bars are like way too thick, and it's just like, wow. So I was interested about that, like the whole 70 millimeter aspect. And then I was really surprised to see how little of it took place outdoors, and that's why you kind of have this over lengthy approach, of the, later on in the movie when you see the other gang members approach the haberdashery, it's like all these kind of filler shots of just the wagon being pulled because, well, it's 70 millimeter, we gotta, have some outdoor scenes. But anyway, it's, there's a lot to talk about. I don't really know where the hell to start. Then you got, this guy, this, Italian classic composer, Ennio Morricone, or however you pronounce it, coming. I don't know, I'm assuming he did like the title, the title track. I'm assuming some stuff is original for this movie, but having researched it and looked at stuff, it's like a lot of the tracks, from what I can tell, are from other movies and all this and that and The Thing and other movies and stuff. So I don't know how much of the actual music in this movie was written for the music. I'm assuming like the main theme, the title theme and stuff was written for this movie. But who knows? Maybe nothing was written for this movie. I don't know. Mentioning the title of this movie, that's absolutely fantastic. That shot of the cross and the slow, track down and pull out and all this stuff while the music, set the stage and set the scene and, everything like that, and the very slow movement away from it and to reveal the carriage in the background and stuff. It's no, obvious Tarantino, it's no secret that Tarantino's a master craftsman and does great work. It's just, in my opinion, very much like with Django Unchained, I just feel like lately, he's just in my opinion, just overindulgent and just, I don't know, that's just my opinion, and just goes on way too long. I can't even watch this movie in one sitting because it's just let's face it, the scenes aren't really, there's really nothing boring or anything like that. I just feel like it's almost too microcosmish and just too, he loves his dialogue, let's face it. Obviously I should know that at this point, and I do, and it's just still kind of so anyway. Very much with Django Unchained, this movie kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I do think Django Unchained is better. Having rewatched that, it has this great forward momentum, of course, because they're on a journey until, of course, they get to the damn house where they just spend 50 minutes just sitting at the dinner table, and that's just whatever. So this whole movie takes place, that's one of the downfalls of this movie, where it all just takes place in this haberdashery, which is fantastically, designed and executed and production designed, and having it take place during a blizzard, and especially with the surround sound and stuff, is the atmosphere of this movie is fantastic and all this and that. So I will say that, the music that is used from other movies or whatever and stuff like that, including the late great, shit, I'm just gonna forget his name right now, but, shit, I wanted to remember his name, but I can't, so if I can never remember it, I'll put it on the screen in red letters, but the late great guy who, David Hess, yes, I remembered, it's not David Hess, yes, it's just David Hess, who did the fantastic, they used a fantastic track from, that was featured, I think, for the very first time in the original Last House on the Left, where he sings, he writes and sings that fantastic song where he's like, and now you're all, whatever the hell it's called. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, and I'm waiting, whatever. So the one about, So in Last House on the Left, when the girl is getting raped or whatever, it's anyway, he did those songs are fantastic, and I actually bought a CD ordered from him back in the day, and I got the CD for it in a little autographed picture. As I was disappointed, it was like printed out on a computer, but I mean not the autograph, but the picture, But so as always, the music chosen, regardless if it's new for the movie or mostly recycled stuff from other movies and whatever, the music chosen is always slam bang, perfectly placed and all this and that. It's a masterful movie, but at the end of the day, I'm afraid I can only go 2 3/4 stars out of 4 because of what I would regard as overindulgent, in my opinion. The overindulgentness of it and just going on and on and on. I just, it's kind of hard for me to, to watch in one sitting. I think I pretty much covered everything. It's fantastic writing, fantastic performances, and fantastic, fantastic pretty much everything. Is just a little long, in my opinion, overindulgent and shit. So, definitely love the, I don't know, the scenario's cool and whatever. So, like I say, 2 3/4 stars out of 4. It's a very strong 2 3/4 out of 4, almost 3, but just because of that overindulgentness, I can't go any more than that. But it is recommended. I've watched it 3 times, so I'm not regretting that I bought it. I'm definitely glad I bought it. I'm just glad I didn't go to the theater to see it, and definitely glad I didn't see the but the roadshow version, which is even longer. Like, I'd see, like, you need a longer version of this, with, whatever it's called, what's that called? Overture and shit and whatever. So anyway, I'm just rambling. Thank you very much for watching this review of The Hateful Eight. It'd be very interesting to see what Tarantino does next. I would very much like to see, he kind of seems stuck in kind of doing the same thing over and over in a lot of ways. Like, this is a lot like almost a Western version of Reservoir Dogs, really. I mean, you can look at it that way, kind of like the way it ends, and just like everyone's dead and whatever. It'd be really interesting. Back in the day, like, I don't know, before, I can't remember if this was like, before they did the remake or reboot of Friday the 13th, like there was talk, of Tarantino doing Friday the 13th, and I'd really like to see him, I really liked Death Proof. And I'd really like to see him do something like that again, where it was kind of like an homage to 80s shit or slashers. Do a slasher movie. All the movies he's done, of course it's only 8, I guess. It seems like he's done more, but have the 9th be a slasher movie. Do a slasher. Do Friday the 13th. Do, even create your own. Maybe not Friday the 13th, but God, if he did Friday the 13th, that'd be like one of the best ones. Since the glory days, that'd be amazing. I'd love for him to do Friday the 13th, a Friday the 13th or something. But create your own slasher character. That'd be a hoot to see like a Quentin Tarantino slasher movie. I'd be very, very, very excited, and I'd even probably go out among the other theater goers and actually see that in the theater. Well, maybe not, but I definitely buy it. So it'll be interesting to see what Tarantino does next. I mean, there's no doubting that, in my opinion, he's probably one of the best filmmakers working at this point. That's not really hard to say, because majority of everyone else, I don't see a lot of stuff, but what I see is just kind of like whatever. So you know, I recommend the movie. It's just, another thing is, it's just kind of the violence. The violence gets a little gratuitous for me, and just whatever, and the violence gets a little, and shooting heads off, and, you know, just the blood splattered everywhere and stuff. I mean, I probably would have been, you know, been more for it maybe as a teenager, but now pushing 40, it's just kind of like, I don't need all that, you know, blood and gut shit. So feel free to let me know what you think of Hateful Eight in the comments or whatever, or what you feel about Quentin Tarantino doing a slasher movie. What do you think about that idea? I think it'd be fantastic. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.